question and answer at the end.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming along. I know it's been a busy Monday at the end of probably a very, very busy half term. So my name's Mark Burrows and I head up a small team at Too Simple, the education team. And we're responsible for creating the educational content on Purple Mash. So things like To Be Safe, the scheme of work, all the other resources that are on there. And we're just going to give you a little bit of an overview of the changes that are coming to the scheme of work and to sort of reassure you. For example, the old scheme is staying as well for a year, and sort of the rationale behind it and why we've made the changes and the kind of things you can expect. All the documentation I'm going to show you is now on Purple Mash as well, and I'll show you where that is. It all went live today. So as a company, we're continually getting feedback on the scheme of work and all of the other resources that are on Purple Mash. And all of that feedback is read and recorded. So we get feedback, for example, from school training. We do about 40 sessions a week in school on schools that are new to Purple Mash, or maybe they've had it for a few years and want to refresh a session. We do Mash chats, which are one-to-one chats, which is both my team and Andrew's CPD team. We do maybe 15, 16 of those a week. Lots of feedback there. Support, whether it's telephone calls in, emails in, giving feedback. Conferences, when we go out and actually speak to teachers, either my team or maybe the sales team. The teacher panel, which some of you attend, that takes place once a half term. Again, getting feedback there. And likewise at the computing leaders panel, which is every half term. And Pioneer Schools, which I think some of you may well be Pioneer Schools, and on social media. So as a company, we're continually getting feedback, what people like, what things they would like will be better if, and all of that feedback is actioned. So in terms of that feedback, small changes, we action immediately. So if people are ringing and saying, oh, this activity didn't quite work, we can tweak it, or all of that is continually changed. Bigger changes, similar to what we're making now, they're recorded and actioned in one go. So in terms of what are we doing, the scheme is more evolution than revolution. So for this reason, we're describing it as refreshed and refined. A lot of the things that you and your staff are used to using, they remain. We just think we're making them better. So we have produced, I know it's gone out on social media and in the Too Simple emails, a suggested medium-term plan based around 36 one-hour lessons. It's an idea, it's an overview, because lots of schools requested some guidance. As with the current scheme, you can tweak it to meet the needs of your school. You know, I know not every school teaches an hour a week. Some it's 2 every 3 weeks, once a fortnight, depending, because I know the curriculum is obviously very busy. It's there as a guidance. You may use it. You may, if you want, tweak it to meet the needs of your school. Again, we've also produced documentation for mixed age planning. Now, it's based on a sort of year 1-2, a 3-4, and a 5-6 mix. I know from the schools we work with that lots of other schools have different mixes. My team can work with you if you needs be to actually tailor the planning for the needs of your school. And we do lots of those over the course of the year to look at your mixes, the future sort of children coming through, etc., and tailor a curriculum to meet the needs of your school. In terms of that, if you have got mixed ages that don't fit into the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mix, you can just drop me an email and we can set up a time to speak with you. The lessons will be ready, that we're producing some lessons ready for autumn term. So they will be out at the beginning of July. The rest of the lessons, we're carrying on writing them. They'll just be added as and when we've done them. And this is the important thing for yourself and for your staff. The old scheme, or the current scheme that you're using now, will remain online for the whole of next year. It will be supported for the whole of next year. So if you want to carry on using that and then think, well, then we'll bring the new scheme in when everything's in place, that's great. Or you may think, well, actually, no, we're ready for a change. Let's have a look at the new scheme. It's ready to go from September. We're saying as a team, as a company, it's entirely up to you how you want to incorporate these changes into your school, straight into the new scheme, or carry on using the scheme that your staff and yourselves are used to. So we're making some changes to the units and their content. We're actually rewriting every lesson. So the changes were made are we're moving some units to different years. So again, feedback is this, the children needed more time to consolidate this. They felt it moved too fast, or maybe that unit was more suited to another year group. So we've moved some units around. We've added in some new units and we've taken some out. So obviously as a company, we're always bringing new software out. So we've brought new units in to make the most of that software that we've brought out. Some of the units, just little changes, we just rename them. So the unit titles are best explanation of what's in there. And some of the units are slightly longer, some slightly shorter. Again, it gives the longer units, it gives the more time for consolidation, which for children, rather than moving perhaps at the pace they have been going. So that's what we've done. We've also, importantly, we've taken out the online safety units. So I think the feedback we had from lots of schools and the schools we've worked with is maybe online safety is changing. The importance is growing in schools. We're all aware of the world that we're living in. Lots of schools now want to teach what we kind of call a golden thread of online safety, which permeates throughout the school year. So rather than just being blocked for 2 or 3 weeks, it's now there for you to use sort of 10, 15 minutes in RSE, computing. Some schools are in class assembly time. It's up to schools how they put that in. But online safety is now being geared towards to be safe rather than explicitly taught within the scheme. So these are the changes we've made. So this is year 1 and year 2 I'll start with. You'll see again, we've still got at the top right, the predominant strand. Now, some of those strands are, for example, the information technology, elements of it may be covered in every single unit. It's just the predominant strand. Again, as I said before, online safety is now being sort of delivered through To Be Safe, which again is on Purple Mash. I'll quickly show you where that is when I finish, if you're not used to it. In every year group, there's going to be a short 2-week activity for schools who are new to Purple Mash. So if you're an established user, it's not for you. If you're a school that maybe is joining in September, or schools that join us in January after Easter, it's just a 2-week session to teach the children the basics of using the platform, things like what a to-do is and how they access a to-do, changing the avatar, how work's organised on Purple Mash. So they're being produced. You'll also see here, these are the new units in year 1 and year 2. So I'll give you a little bit more information about these in a minute. And you can also see again, we have amended the number of lessons in some of the year 1-2 sessions. At the bottom, you'll see here, all of the units that are out in July are marked with an asterisk. So you can see which ones are ready for September. We've also produced, again, lots of schools have requested this, a very simple overview of what content is covered in each unit and how many lessons that unit is. So the ones in the purple boxes are the new units, or where we've merged a couple together. And you can see there a brief overview for the staff of what's in each unit and kind of a quick summary of the kind of things the children will produce or will learn over the course of that unit. And there's the one, obviously, for year 2. Year 3 and year 4, once again, we've brought some new units in. We've moved route planners. We've done a unit in year 3, for example, to give the children a better introduction into logo. So it looks more sort of using To-Go for angles. We've had some schools, again, on the office standard, as we call them, units, industry standard. We've had some schools, could we do some units for Apple software? So as well as Microsoft and Google activities, there'll be units of work for Apple, Keynote and Pages and Numbers on both iPad and desktop. So that's coming out on there. A new one in year 4, Sound Stories, is using ToCast. And it's the children working in small groups to produce audio books. So maybe a traditional tale, they record the story, they edit the audio, they insert sound effects in, and then hopefully they can perhaps play it to younger children in the school, their stories, that when they finish them. And again, we've tweaked the number of weeks on some units. And we've also got at the bottom these additional units. So you've got the introduction to Purple Mash that I mentioned earlier. We've also got microbit units now for year 3, 4, 5 and 6. I know lots of you have got microbits, and the feedback we've had about these lessons has been really positive. We've put them as additional units because we didn't want schools who didn't have microbits to think they had to go out and buy microbits to do the scheme. But again, you can, if you want to do the microbit units and the children have enjoyed them and they got out of them, you can just swap units around to meet the needs of your learners and the resources you've got within school. Again, overview document for year 3. So like I say, route planners is new, tells what's in there. And then we've got presenting ideas. Like I said, that's now got the Apple software in. Year 4, the sound stories, and we've got some a unit on unpacking hardware and software for the children, understanding the difference between the two. Year 5 and 6, some new units there that we're putting in. Again, we've got the word processing, got Apple software in. Quizzing, we've moved down to year 5. We've got the graphing unit now in year 6 because we can start to use the full range with of sort of pie charts and line charts, etc. with the older children. Data detectives is coming. That's more in-depth analysis of data. And we're also doing a very, very simple introduction to the Python coding language, if that's what schools want to do. Again, microbit unit is there, should you want to swap that in instead of any of the other units as well. And then you've got your tweaks to the weeks and the additional units I've spoken about before, if you want to bring them into your school's plan. Again, all this documentation is on Purple Mash, a brief overview of what's in each unit, so you know the teachers know what they're teaching. And that's the one for year 6. So in terms of the actual presentations, like I say, all of the presentations are being rewritten and closely looked at, scrutinised to make sure they're the best they can possibly be. We've standardised the design of the presentations to improve the learner's experience. We've reduced the amount of key vocabulary in the lessons as well, and we've tried to make the key vocabulary very tight and linked as far as possible purely to the computing terminology that they will come across within that particular lesson. We produced 2 or 3 years ago some knowledge and skills questions, which allowed teachers to check children's retention of knowledge, both from the last lesson, but also from previous years. And they went down really well. And we had lots of teachers saying, oh, can you put them in the slideshows? So they are now an integral part of the slideshow. There's sort of 2 or 3 questions in each lesson to check what the children have remembered about their learning. The aim is now sort of a single aim, and the success criteria are much more concise. We've reduced, particularly for younger children, the amount of content and text on slides, so it's easier for the children to follow. We're also making greater use of videos in the lessons. So maybe before we might have had 2 or 3 slides. We've now got a 1 minute, 1.5 minute, 2 minute video which the teacher can play, which is one of my team talking about the learning that the children will be undertaking in the activity, or to consolidate something they've done previously. And we've also put some self-review questions at the end of each lesson. So what I've got here for you now, this is an example lesson. So it's not a full lesson. I've just taken some of the key slides out. So this is a year 4 animation lesson. It's the first one. So you'll see a nice concise aim for the children to think about, and some success criteria based around I can. There's sort of normally 3 or 4 of those per lesson that they can think about as they're following the lesson. The knowledge and skills check that I spoke about, they're now in there as well. So you get a definition. Obviously, this is lesson 1, so they can't do last lesson because it's the first lesson in the unit. You will have last lesson here from lessons 2 onwards, and then something linked to their previous learning that they've done. And if they click, once you've discussed it as a class, maybe they've written the answers on a whiteboard, or you just had a discussion, you can reveal the answers. and you can then check how well the children have done. Lower down, it's very much giving them a choice of perhaps 2 options. Further up, we've also done some discussion questions where there's not really right and wrong. We have put a suggested answer, but the aim is for the children to discuss what they think, what their understanding is of the question. And the vocabulary, again, we've cut down, it's much more concise and linked to the computing aspect of the lesson. So you can see here you've got the animation, vocabulary. Questions are in purple. So the children will know, and the teacher knows that if something's in purple, it's something they need to respond to, either a question or a discussion, depending on the age of the children. Wherever possible then, where needed, we have actually put the answer to the question to support the teacher as well. The answers are on there as well. You can see it's all animated, so there's not a huge amount of text appearing in one go on the slide. Again, you'll see questions in purple, animation on the slide, much, perhaps less content for the children to read and to think about on the slides. Use of videos. So this is obviously the children introduced to using Flipbooks, and you'll see we've then done a video on actually what a Flipbook is, and somebody practically making one. I don't think you can hear the sound, but it's obviously narrated as well. And then again, for consistency, anything that's an activity is in this purple egg with a description of what the children need to do. Most of the lessons have some form of extension task as well, should the children finish it. Some lessons may have a couple of activities. Most of them have an extension task for moving the children on, linked to what they've learned. At the end, you've got the vocabulary review, so the children can think about the vocabulary they looked at the start of the lesson. You can then ask them what they remember about each of the words, because they will have looked at them within the lesson, and you can click on the box and it gives the definition. And then at the end, you've got some reflection questions for the children to think about, maybe discuss as a class, in pairs, etc., however you choose to teach, based on what they've learned in that particular lesson. So that's the way all the slides are sort of constant in design and in the way they work throughout the lesson, so the children and staff get familiar with them. Again, in terms of the supporting content, that will still be the same. So as the lessons launch, the knowledge organizer will be there for each lesson. The learning mats will be there for each lesson. The prior and future learning links will be there, because it's important that the children, the staff realise that the learning is not taking place in isolation. It's building on things they've done previously, and it's then built on in subsequent years. That documentation will be done. And again, the assessment quizzes and concept maps for each unit will also be produced as each unit goes live. So in terms of the planning the scheme, it's going on a management system, which I'll show you in a minute. So the management system will make it much easier for you to plan and for your teachers to see what's taking place in that particular unit. There's going to be a unit planner for computing. So if you're the coordinator, you can actually allocate to all the staff what units you would like them to teach over which weeks, in which order. And I'll show you that in how that works. There's tabs, so the lessons are now grouped by tabs, which again, I'll show you on the management system. The presentations as well, there's 2 options now. If your staff want to download them, that's absolutely fine. As they're used to, they can download them as PowerPoints, and they can use them exactly as now. Or you can actually teach the lesson online through the management system, so they don't need to download anything. But both options are there, depending on how teachers want to teach. If they want to download it and amend the PowerPoint, they can do. If they want to use the online version and annotate it as they're teaching, that option's there as well. You'll be able to quickly scroll through the presentation for each lesson at the start or the night before, so you can see what you're teaching very, very quickly. And then coming soon, that when you set the to-dos from the CMS, we're going to do it so the to-do is auto-populated with the curriculum objectives for that particular lesson. Again, it just removes one step for the teacher. It's already done for them. So I'm going to quickly come off the PowerPoint, and I'm going to go on to Purple Mash. So this is the management system. So you'll see this is what it will look like when it launches. It's not live yet. This is what it's going to look like in July when it goes live. At the top, you've got all of your key documentation that the teachers are used to using. And then you have your year groups. Actually, if you click on the year group, you can see there the units that are in that particular year group. And at the bottom, things like the Computing Unplugged, which I know some people are using. Again, the printable icon posters, which I've had really nice feedback about. If teachers want to make a display over the tool that they're using at that time, there's some posters, enlarged icons, etc. they can use, and the copyrights on there as well. But you know, anything on here you're free to tweak to meet the needs of your school. So if I click on year one, where we've actually populated it, there's the year one units. And you'll see the ones in red are the ones where we've actually loaded content on. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to plan out the schedule. So all you do as the coordinator, maybe once a year, as you click on the unit schedule, and you'll see below each unit when it's got content in it, you get the dates. You can click on the dates. So maybe you want the teacher to teach unit 1 on the second week in September, and you want them to teach that over the next sort of three weeks. And you'll see the dates are now on there for teaching the introduction. If I'm then going to go into coding, I can click on the dates. And if I go back to maybe October, I can say I'd like to teach coding from the 7th of October all the way through till the 5th of November. And again, it's put the dates on there for you. So you can do that for all the units when they're live, for each year group. And then what I can do once it's done is I can save and exit. And I can then produce a PDF, which I can share with staff, with head teachers, MAT leaders, governors, etc., of what content you're covering in computing and what time frame that's going to be in. So this is what it looks like. This is also just year one. You can see there you've got the whole of the academic year, and you can see what each year group, it'll be color coded by year group. So year one are going to teach coding here, and then they're going to do introduction to Purple Mash. Obviously I did the date slightly wrong, but you get the idea of how that will work on there. So in terms of the management system, once you click into it, you have the overview. So you've got a brief overview of what that particular unit will involve for the teacher, the aims of the units, what they're going to cover, and all of the supporting documentation. So the knowledge organizer, the learning mats, the concept maps, and the end of unit quizzes. You'll see now that lessons are now tabbed at the top with assessment at the end. So click on lesson 1. You've got the lesson aim, the success criteria, any preparation that you need to make as the teacher to help you teach that lesson. For example, if you need to set a particular to-do, maybe you need some whiteboards for the children to make notes on, etc. That's all on there. And then any sort of supporting activities, they'll be down here as well. So any files that you need. If need be, we've tried to reduce the amount of teacher notes, but if there are teacher notes, maybe for the coding units, they will appear underneath for each lesson to give you support and your staff support in delivering the lessons. Because it's now in the management system, you can very quickly, as the teacher, just flick through. So you can just see what's coming in that lesson, etc. If you want to, you can then click on the arrow here, and it will launch it straight in the browser, in your browser, and you can teach from here. You can annotate it like you would on a whiteboard, or as before, you can download the PowerPoint to your local device to use. So that's obviously the 3 lessons, and at the end you've got your assessment statements, which are for each unit for the teachers to use. And again, it's got sort of 3 banding. I know different schools use different terminology. We've just gone with emerging, expected, and exceeding as the terminology. So this is how the scheme will look once it's all live. If I go to Purple Mash and now to take questions, inside the teachers area, we made this side panel live today. So within the side panel, if you want to share with staff, there's a 1.5 minute video of the sort of the changes that we've done, what's in the scheme of work. You've got the overview document that I spoke about, which I know many of you may have seen on social media, which is the potential, if you want to follow it, overview document for the year, again with the units that are being produced in July. You've also got the documentation for mixed age planning, which I spoke about. So if you are a sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, we've just done a 2-year rolling program, a mix of the different year groups and different units. And then finally, you've got the documentation shown in the presentation, which gives you a summary of what's being covered in that particular year group, a brief summary of the content and the kind of things the children will learn and produce at the end of the unit. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now. I'll go up here. And that's kind of the key information. I know there's a lot there. Do any of you have any questions? So there's a few here. Okay, so in terms of the questions, when in July, we're aiming, Gillian, for release, hope at the very latest, the first week in July. That's our aim, is to get it out the first week in July. So most of the units for the start are now complete. I think we've got a couple still to go. They've just got to be quality assured and checked, but they should be live in July, the units for autumn term, and there'll be enough lessons there to last you until Christmas. As we then produce more units, they will just go straight onto the management system for schools to use. Again, the PowerPoints, they're all editable. So you can download them to your device and you can edit them as much as you want to meet the needs of your learners. So we'll have to adapt the progression grid to our school format. The progression grids will be the same as now. I presume you mean the ones sort of the prime future learning, how they build. They will be out exactly for each unit when they go live on there. In terms of increased subscription, no, it's all part of your subscription. My understanding is it's part of our drive as a company and as a team to continually make sure that what we do is the very best it can possibly be, to support your staff and to make sure the children learn as much as they can, as effectively as possible. The class overview, it's not editable. We've just done it as a PDF at the moment. If you want it, Amy, I can probably send it you as a Word document and you can edit that. That's fine. We tend to do most things as PDFs because you can actually just download a PDF, I'm sure you know, and just open it in Word and edit it that way if you want to do that. But if that doesn't work, drop me an email and let me know. The microbits, for example, are the optional ones. If you like additional units, not optional, they're additional. But I think lots of schools will use them because A, they have microbits. B, the children really like using the microbits, and C, the feedback has been really, really positive about those microbit units. The Year 6 one that has been written, it makes use of the sensor capability of the microbits, recording things like temperature and sound, and then exporting it into 2 graphs so the children can analyze the data that the microbits recorded. So it doesn't work on the emulator, it actually works on the microbits. I think from memory, the years 3 to 5 should work with most of them will work with the emulator, but obviously the microbits themselves are great. The children got something physical to hold and they can see that physical output. That's good to hear, Amy, they've been popular. Like I say, the Year 6 one, we've just got to make that live. We've got a few tweaks to do, and that'll be live very soon, the Year 6 one.
There's a question about the crash courses still being available.
Our aim is, the crash courses will still be available, for schools that are new. And I think they're getting less and less use because I think schools who are new to Perth Mash who tend to use them, but they will be on there to provide support. Maybe if you're new to Purple Mash, etc. In terms of Anne's question, Lego Builders has just actually, the memory has just been renamed because we thought the phrase Lego Builders was a bit misleading because it's not a huge amount of Lego in there. I think it's now called Following Instructions from Memory. It's Following Instructions. Maze Explorers, we've moved out of Year 1 and put it into Year 2 and also an extra unit into Year 3. The feedback we got on there was some of the Year 1 children, they struggled with some of the maths concepts of it. So that's why we've moved it to Year 2. But even if they've done it in year one. The content is different. There's more challenge in there if they want to do it again and consolidate it. If not, just replace it with one of the other units. But like I said, the old scheme will remain online for the whole of the next academic year if you want to carry on using that, Anne. Oh, you're from Walsall. I'm a governor of Walsall School, Anne, so you think you're my neck of the woods. Elizabeth, a layout. Yeah, it is. We can help you with that. Myself and my team, I think we must have worked with 50 schools on mixed age planning, and I think we probably have 35 different mixes. So we're more than happy to help you on that, Elizabeth. When you get the presentation, my email's on there. I will actually put it in the chat. And if you want to drop me an email, if you drop me an email with some dates and times when you're free, I'll send a Teams invite over and we can have a chat, find out what your children do, timings, etc., support and things like that, and we can work with you to do a plan for that. That's absolutely fine. Thanks, Amy. That's good. Thank you. Yeah, we're doing lots to support the staff. We're aware that the staff are doing lots and lots of other, busier and busier, and we're committed as a team to try and do everything we can to help you and your staff make the teaching of computing as powerful as it can be, but also as supportive from our end as we can possibly be. So I say, where there's questions, we're giving answers. We're trying to do all that for you to help you out and support you. In terms of To Be Safe, we can work with you to support To Be Safe. We haven't done kind of an ideal overview for that because schools are working in so many different ways. The schools we've spoken to on To Be Safe, some schools sort of do every week, every couple of weeks. We've worked with some schools that block it one day a half term, the whole school focuses on it. Some schools that are using class assembly time to do it. Other schools, particularly in faith schools, that's more difficult, so they can't. So we haven't done a suggested plan because of all the different combinations, but we can work with you, Claire. Again, drop me an email on sort of embedding To Be Safe in your school, and we can have a chat about your particular circumstances, timings, etc., and we can work with you on that. Any more questions? There's some more down. Oh, some more. So, is there a webinar available for incorporating To Be Safe? That's one for Andrew. Is your webinar, Andrew, for To Be Safe?
We did do a webinar on To Be Safe when it first came out. I will check in the webinar schedule about whether there's any more coming up. But if you'd like one, I'm sure we could. I mean, do check out the webinars on the professional development area. All the webinars that are currently booked in are there. There will be another set of webinars for the autumn term. They should be on by the end of the summer term, so you should be seeing those from July, and you can book on those, and you can book on as many as you like, and they're all recorded as well. So if you've booked on it, you will get a link to the recording of it. Don't forget, there's also the MASH chats. If you want a one-to-one with one of us, you can book those through the professional development area on Purple MASH. There's no limit to the amount of those that you can have, and they can be recorded too if you need that sort of input. And of course, you can book your staff CPD. If you're not quite sure whether or not you've still got CPD on your account, because most of you have, you could just email bookcpd@2simple.com and they will check for you and let you know, and they're able to book it in for you as well.
I think, I mean, I'm just putting there the RSC. We have actually mapped, and I did say I'll quickly show you for those schools that are new. Let me just quickly load my screen up. For those who may be new to Purple MASH, I'm conscious of times, I won't keep you much longer. For those schools who are new to Purple MASH, and you wonder what on earth is To Be Safe. So To Be Safe can be found in the teachers section next door to the computing scheme of work. And it's a series of sort of 12 to 15 minute sessions that are mapped to education for a connected world. They're designed so you don't need to get the individual devices out, because again, I know what it's like working sort of year 1 to even to year 4. By the time you've got 30 devices out, the time's gone. So we've designed the lessons, so it's a lot of it's kind of discussion work, where it's quizzes. You can do class quizzes on the whiteboard and showing answers using their pens and boards, etc. So the overview is here to be safe. So you can see they're the 8 strands from Education for Connected World, and that's the number of sessions per year group. So reception, it's sort of 1 every 3 weeks. It's pretty much 1 a week for year 6, but they are short 12 to 15-minute sessions. And again, we have mapped it to RSE because there's a lot of crossover between the RSE curriculum and sort of the online safety that we've done. So if, for example, there's the RSE statement for respectful relationships, and in self-image and identity, year 1, lesson 1, self-image and identity, the theme of that hits some of the RSE targets. So that's on there as well for the online safety. Any more questions at all? Anything else I can help you with? Okay. Well, from my point of view, a massive thanks for coming along and for hearing about it. We're, as a team, we're really excited by the new scheme. We're spending a lot of time listening to your feedback and talking things through as a team, and we think it's a real improvement for both the children and the teachers. All of your feedback would be welcome. You've got my email address, both positive feedback, which we love to hear, and things we could do better, which we also love to hear. So please share your feedback with me. If you do need help with mixed age planning, like I said, you can drop me an email. If you just give me 2 or 3 days and times when you're free, I can check the team's diary, and a couple of us will meet with you and go through helping you incorporate the scheme, either the existing one or the new one, into your particular needs. But a big thank you, and I know it'll soon have a wonderful half term and a well-deserved rest when it comes. Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.